Craigslist.io.
Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at YDFL Podcast.
And on Alexa, Spotify, YouTube.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all the fun
Please.
stuff. And if you take a look at the links in our bio and all of that, you can see how to contact us if you have a really cool story that you want us to share anonymously. We can do that for you. Okay, we are talking about soul ties.
Soul ties. It sounds like soul true.
Soul ties.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about soul ties. Actually, this is something that's new to me, by the way. I hadn't heard about soul ties up until maybe about a year ago.
Yeah, same.
It's kind of new, and it was one of those things that was brought to my attention that basically, depending on who you've been with, if there is any trauma that they've dealt with, if there's any like sexual abuse, if there's anything that like any demons they battle, like literally it's a transfer of energy.
Oh.
And they're basically transferring this energy to you and whoever they've been with, and it's like pretty crazy. So I don't know what your experience has been with what you've heard, but my experience has been kind of freaking scary, to say the least, to hear all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how true is this?
I don't know. You know, we bring a spiritual element and a faith element to the show.
Right.
And we talk about prayer, you know, off
Right.
and on. And even before the show, a lot of you guys don't get to see, but we actually put our hands together and we actually say a prayer over the show and to guide us. And so again, we're open-minded, right? When it comes to spirituality.
We are, yeah, definitely.
And when it comes to soul ties, because you and I have talked a little bit about it, and it does kind of creep me out because I think to myself, so it's one of those things like when you were young and they go, oh, you made out with Johnny, and then Johnny made out with Susie, and Susie made out with Patrick, and then it's like essentially you made out with one person, but you made out with everybody. And that's what it reminded me of,
Right.
but like on a spiritual
level. Yeah.
So I kind of really deep down inside hope that's not
the case.
But why don't we give the example, the example to the audience of like, what is a soul tie?
So obviously, in my opinion, this is my opinion because I'm not the one that came up with this whole soul tie thing, right? But I think that the ultimate connection, and you know, we've talked about this before, I think the ultimate connection when it comes to people or human beings is, you know, sexual. So
Yeah.
what differentiates a friend to a lover is the sexual part of it. They're just friends if you've never had sex with them.
Yeah.
If you have had sex with them, they essentially have been your lover or they are your lover. So past tense or even future or right now at this moment. So basically what happens, in my opinion, from what I've heard, is I guess once you have sex, whatever it is that they're carrying with them, because they're spiritual beings also, they're basically transferring that over to you. And so depending on how open you are, whether or not you believe in this, because there are people that obviously don't care, they're not very spiritual. I think that we're crossing into a moment in time, in my opinion, where everyone seems to be more in tune. Like, I don't like that person's vibe, or I don't like the energy I felt in that room, or I don't like the way I felt when I met her or him or whatever. And everyone's just kind of vibrational beings, and everyone's kind of honed in and tapped into that. So with that being said, when you're going to go have sex with someone, if you're that tapped in, you can essentially pick up whatever vibrations they've come in contact, and if you're open to receiving them, they can download them, is what I've understood.
I think that it does make sense, even in the sense of the Bible, and I'm going to destroy probably this whole quote situation because I can't quote from the Bible very well, but there is an element in the Bible, and if you guys know the answer to this more specifically, you can drop it in the comments, but where it basically says that, you know, what God has brought together, right, with a man and a woman, may no man be able, it can't break it. No man, no nothing can break it. Well, guess what the covenant of marriage includes? You know, it's consummating it through the act of sex, right? And it's essentially the glue, the bond, it seals the deal. And even till this day, legally, if you did not consummate the marriage,
it's not legal.
It's considered, right, not legal or whatever. And so when we really look at the very beginning origins of like the sex, the role of sex in like sealing these deals, right? And these covenants, like there has to be something to it. So if you're going out there and you're getting involved with someone because you fell in love or whatever, you're not married, and then now you're having sex with them, but then it doesn't work out, and you move on to the next person, I believe that possibly you are getting remnants of that person, and I will add one thing. I had a relation. Oh my God! I almost said I had a relationship with a priest. My goodness.
Like a friendship.
He was a counselor. So when you go to church, it's like your pastor is your counselor. So he was a counselor. He had a counselor role in the church, and I got to know him. And he also had a spiritual gift. Okay. And I know I mentioned him to you a few times. And he explained something very interesting to me.
Right.
And he said that if somebody has like demonic oppression, you're not gonna know.
Okay.
You might get a vibe that, man, they're just moody or something off or whatever. Or pessimist, whatever it is.
Right.
If you sleep with that person, that part of that does come to you.
So it does download to you.
He didn't call it a soul tie, but I'm now that we're talking about I'm now going, okay.
That makes sense. We're putting this together.
Yes.
You know, I've even heard, just because sometimes out of nowhere, if you were involved with someone on a sexual level, because that's like the ultimate connection in my opinion. Like you can go on 10 dates and never have sex with the person and that's it. But if you can go on 2 dates and have sex with the person and then there's that ultimate connection, past lover. And so I had heard something like this, and I don't know if you've heard this, like I release them back, so you have to kind of say their name 3 times or whatever. It's always the 3 times, right? And you're supposed to do the hand of the scissors.
Oh yeah, that was.
And then you know, and I release him back to his Holy Spirit, and you know, and you're supposed to pray on, you know, his entity or whatever, because I guess these soul ties, that's the way you untangle them. I don't know that to be true. I think maybe on a psychological level, you could think like you're doing something, and you might be, but it's just such a new thing for me. It's such a nuance for me that I'm like, this is nuts. Like, I never had heard of this. I just thought, okay, you have a boyfriend, you're with them, and okay, next, you're married, it didn't work. And here's my thing, right? This is where I kind of take it a step further, because I think about, you know, me being married and me being monogamous for like the entire time I was married, right? But he's not being monogamous, so you have to take that into consideration.
And he's bringing
how
that energy.
many times is he connecting with all these people? Because to him, sex is obviously not even a handshake. To him, it's just kind of like getting a bag of fries and supersizing, you know, and that's it. Like, it's not that big of a deal to him. But what does it do to a person like myself that is under the impression that I'm in a monogamous relationship with someone when he's literally making connections with anything and anyone, including call women, right?
Yeah.
So then, and then that woman is like connecting with anyone that would pay her.
Guys.
So I was a little mind boggled by it all, because when you actually think about all the connections, it almost feels like an old school like telephone cord, and it literally has like the calling to whatever it is that, you know, you are in your entity. And I think that you may have to do some type of internal work. For me, I don't think it's really affected me, but maybe it has.
Yeah, you may or may not be aware.
I may not know.
So you mentioned, and I love that because it's true, if he's out there with women that are essentially women, you know, sex workers,
right?
And they're obviously, it's a profession, so their body count is probably insane.
Like up there,
now they're with this married man who's going home to his monogamous way. And then we're opening ourselves up in the deepest level, and heart, mind, body, soul, because you go through a lot of things when you're having sex with someone. It is emotional, which then transcends, right, to like a spiritual thing.
And then you get married in the so-called most sacred way, right? So like we got married in a Catholic church. Yeah. So then what does that do? You know, and that's kind of like
it's all broken covenants.
The questions.
The thing that you said about the scissors, so this same priest who, again, was acting in a counselor role, one of the things that he had said was exactly that. He said if you want to break, for example, the generational curses in your family, and I know that we're not exactly talking about that, but I imagine that you were seeing the same kind of advice with the soul ties, and you would imagine like these strings, like silver strings that are connecting you to each and everything. It could be the spirit of jealousy, the spirit of obesity, the spirit of addiction. You name these spirits, right? Alcoholism, whatever it may be.
Right.
Okay, spirit of lying, spirit of, And a lot of these things are generational curses that you would then imagine each of these things and say, I break the curse in Jesus' name. And you make the signs of scissors. Some people get actual scissors and actually make the cut. And you imagine cutting the cord with that generational curse. So I imagine if a priest who is very well versed, master's degree in psychology, but also here he is acting as counselor, is saying this is an actual thing.
Right.
I could imagine that with regards to soul ties, that's where it's coming from.
I could see that.
And you could use a similar tactic to separate yourself from energetically from
But I wonder
those
if that would be something that you would think worked, like I said, psychologically. Like you would think, okay, it feels right. I felt the energy cut the cords, therefore we can move on. I don't know.
But I mean, think in the moving on, it's at least biblically, if you are gonna, let's just say, ask for forgiveness for a sin or be cleansed of whatever it is to then sin no more. So I imagine that you would cut soul ties. If your body counts 8, you go boom, boom, boom. It could be 80. Whatever it is, you sit there. You're like, damn, Rachel, I gotta remember 80 people's names. Like you gotta remember their faces, or whatever, and you cut the cord with them.
Yeah.
But it is the fruit of it comes from then being essentially celibate.
Okay.
And letting there be kind of like a spiritual cleansing and giving your body, your heart, your mind, and spirit that time and space to be cleared out. And then you essentially commune with God, and there's like this whole ritual. And so I feel like depending on what you believe, depending on what your faith, it's not about clearing out this junk, but then I'm still over here playing with this junk. It's not about going, I don't want these 3, but I'm going to keep these 2.
Right.
And so that's the part where I think us, as women, because we're love bugs, we kind of go, oh, okay, I don't know about all that.
But, okay, so yeah, I kind of agree with you, but then you'd have to really think about, moving forward, if you're doing all this work, right? Because it takes work, and it takes time, and it takes like mind effort, and body effort, and soul effort.
Yep.
So you'd have to kind of meet or be with someone that kind of meets you halfway, because the last thing you want is you're doing all this work to kind of cleanse yourself from all the soul ties that, are maybe like kind of correlated to you from past relationships or what have you. And all of a sudden you're with someone that has a kind of, without knowing, has the same type of mindset that maybe your ex-husband had, or your ex-lover, or your ex-boyfriend, or whatever it is. And so now you're back to square one, because now you're recreating these soul ties. So I think what's most important, more than anything, in my opinion, from what I've learned, is you have to kind of meet halfway with whoever you're going to be with, just to kind of make sure that you guys both understand that you guys are going from possible friends, dating, to lovers. And I know that we can even take it a little bit further, where people are celibate and they want to get to the place of marriage. And then they want to go ahead and give themselves up again, even though they may not be virgins, but they basically want to give themselves up, or their body, to the next person until they get married.
So I think that, as we discussed this, I love the idea actually of what man and a woman who are looking to get married. So you're engaged. I think it would be a beautiful thing to normalize a man and a woman who are getting engaged to do this ritual together, and to literally start the process. If you're engaged this month and 9 months from now you know that you have set your date, that you were on this journey for the next 9 months to sit there and say, I got the ring, what does it mean? We set the date, cool, let's do the work, because at the end of the day he has a past, you have a past. Excuse me. And if you join hands or you do whatever, and then you support each other on the journey of severing those soul ties, so that you can enter into a covenant where it's pure and it's just you and him and it's cleared out. What a beautiful thing that I actually have not thought of. But as we're talking about it, I think that that could be a really wonderful thing if your partner is on the same page.
Well, I do know there's like that singer Sierra, I believe that's her name, and then her husband, I think he's like a basketball, I don't know, he might be like, he plays some kind of sport, and from my understanding, she got a lot of slack back from that, because from my understanding, again, I believe that they wanted to wait until they actually got married, and then they wanted to go ahead and get together the day of their marriage, or the day of their wedding. And I think that's a beautiful thing if you can actually pull that off. My only concern, and obviously it would be maybe your guys' concern and your concern possibly, is like, it's kind of like buying the car and not driving it. And I'm not saying that you should drive the car before buying it. I'm just saying that could be a concern, you know, just because, you know, you do understand that you're going this far. So that means that, like, till death do you part, because you're going to take it to the next step. So, I mean, there's so many things and so many variables when it comes to, like, soul ties, marriage, waiting, not waiting, who you're having sex with, who they're having sex with. I mean, it literally is a domino effect in my opinion.
It really is. And so I think that if we go and we take it all the way back to the schoolyard in elementary school, or I don't know if you're kissing in elementary school, but, you know, whatever it was, whatever age, you know, it was that thing of like, oh, you kind of hooked up with them, and then he was with these 5 people, and then these girls were
like, ew.
It's, the cooties and the mono and all that. And I think that, you know, on a spiritual level, I think it's a beautiful thing to even have this topic. I know I haven't really seen too many shows, podcasts really doing anything on it.
Right.
And even to look at your spouse, you could be married 10 years. If you know that you had sexual encounters before you got married, you know he did, maybe he had an ex-wife or whatever the situation is, I would say, what a beautiful thing on your anniversary or whatever it is, if you say to your partner, if he's on the same page, you go, why don't we just do this? Why don't we do like a clearing?
Right.
And to see how that breeds any kind of beauty or reignites any kind of love or connection in the marriage, because we often do these episodes not only to make you look on the other side to see what's possible and what you deserve, but also to look at what you currently have and to see how you can make it better.
And I think a lot of the time also it's more like hitting the reset in life. And I think that even if you are or not in a relationship, I think every once in a while we all have to hit the reset and just to say, okay, like, I just need to take this time to just like clear my head, cleanse my space, kind of really think about the things that I've done and the things that I want to accomplish, rather than thinking like, oh my gosh, if I could have sworn he had like all these issues, and that's probably why I have all these issues. And I think a lot of the time we can literally create a whole story psychologically based on what we think, you know,
and feel
on someone. And so at the end of the day, I think this is a new topic for me. I had never heard it. And it's pretty interesting. And when I really think about it, and when I've done the breakdown, I'm like, what does that mean for me? You know, like, oh my gosh, it's like pretty crazy.
And also, you know, when you think about healing on any level, you know, if you look at the body and a wound, you know, you got to clear the wound out. You got to clean the wound. And it has to have air and all this kind of stuff. And I think that when you think about like your body and sitting there going, okay, I'm going to take some time to literally be celibate. Like, I'm going to say, I'm not going to give my body up to anyone who's not worthy of being my husband. And to give yourself that time and space, and biblically, you know, they talk about fasting. And so at the end of the day, when you really want to manifest something into your life and you want God to lead the way on that, you are supposed to fast. And so, and so there's this sort of like purging or purification process where the food has run its course through your body, like your body has been cleansed because you haven't been sexually active, your mind, heart, spirit, and then it clears the slate, so to speak, for you to get real direction of like what you truly want, what you think God wants for you.
The downloads come,
everything comes to you. And so I think that it's not just a matter of like, I'm a single woman and I'm independent and I'm having a good time. But these guys back here were freaking horrible. I'm gonna just cut ties with them, but then keep these over here. But you know what I mean? So it's not really a true cleansing. And I don't know that with something like that you can pick and choose.
No, it's so true.
So, but do your research because we're not really the experts in this.
No,
we're just
it's
learning.
all new, and then I think, I mean, this may be with it or not with it, but there's like the whole thing with the ayahuasca tea, and then you get the shaman that kind of guides you through it. This could be a little bit more than what we're talking about, but basically what they do is they kind of let you battle all your demons of all things that you've ever done or you've been through, and it's supposed to clear out everything you just talked about, but it's on a deeper level. And most people, when they, from what I've heard, once they've done ayahuasca, they're like completely different human beings because their experiences are completely different, is what I've heard. And I've never tried it because I'd be so freaking scared to do it. I mean, not to say that I would never do it, I just have never done it. And it's kind of like on a lighter version of what you're saying. What you're saying to like give yourself up to God and to like just basically say my body's my temple and I'm gonna protect it and you're gonna do like the hand to the scissors, cut the soul ties, and just kind of go through the motions. I think that the other thing that I'm talking about might be on a tangent, but it's kind of within the same
It sounds like it's just another pathway to be safe and goal.
The cachet, I guess.
Clear the cachet. And I know that we've even talked about, and I've shared the story with you with the priest. He explained to me that a lot of times people go, oh, I'm cursed, or this person's doing these weird works against me. And he made it very clear, and he explained to me several times that the only way that someone can succeed with doing that to you is if you are open, because you're doing rituals that are superstitious. Right. And so when you look around you, it's like, what's that thing that we said about the burning? There's like the pendulum. And
there's like the Palo Santo, and then there's the sage, and then there's like the incense of the church, and you can't just burn those, and it has to be a time, and you have to know when to burn them and where you're getting the incense, the sage, the Palo Santo. Like, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be an expert. And
he said that everybody and their mother is like going out and just doing these things, and they don't realize what they're calling.
But I think it has a lot to do with the meditation, the yoga, we're kind of coming into this like new era of spirituality, and like we just said about like the vibration and the vibes and how it made you feel, and like burn the sage and burn the this.
We're all turning into hippies.
I know, really. And I think a lot of the time we just don't know exactly what we're doing. Yeah. So it's like what you say, you don't know what you don't know. So I think whatever it is that you decide to do, just always know, no matter what, if you protect your temple, which is your body, you're always going to be okay. Like whether you burn, I don't know, whatever it is you're burning.
Go talk to your pastor. You don't need to be burning nothing yet.
To do that.
Go talk to your pastor, your priest,
you might be opening up some
your rabbi,
crazy ass spirits that are like.
You're over here like cutting soul ties, but actually you're having like a soul
they're all
training.
chilling, watching you. Like, all right, you're gonna burn that sage. I'm coming for you.
Yes,
you just don't know.
Yes.
You just gotta know what you're doing.
Exactly. But anything else?
I think that's basically it. Yeah. Just remember, take care of your body, soul, spirit. Body is a temple. Yeah. Pray on that.
And if you're never sure, just
pray
on it. Exactly. All right, and don't forget that you deserve fresh life.
And we say to that, salud. Cheers.